Hey, so yeah, should be good now. So yeah, wanted to do another character guide. Today we're going to be going over Bronya, who is considered to be the current best support character in the game, and is also considered to be one of, if not the best character in the game. Like it's between pretty much her and Sela, I would say. I do think Sela personally is a bit better, but some people might consider Bronya's versatility when it comes to team building and just general utility is a bit more beneficial than Sela just being a main DPS. So yeah, she can be a great win weakness breaker with her ultimate providing team-wide attack and crit damage. Just for some general overviews, her ultimate doesn't actually deal any damage, but her basic attack can be used for the win weakness breaking. Her skill's ability to manipulate turn order is by far her strongest asset, in my opinion, though, as this readied unit will not only receive like 50% of or like they'll get a 50% damage buff pretty much. I think it's up to like 66% whenever it's max level or whatever. And then they'll also cleanse one debuff, and it can also be used to ready slower healing and shielding characters if you don't have like speed boots on them, or if they're trapped in crowd control because they keep getting hit, like your card keeps getting slowed by enemies having slow debuffs on their attacks because they all keep attacking Japard. You can just use Bronya to instantly ready them, and they'll be able to use their ultimate or skill to charge their ultimate and be able to use it in emergency situations if you needed her to be used for that. So it's a lot of versatility on the skill, not just main DPS getting the damage, but also just making sure that your characters can use their ultimate if it's almost charged, and you just need a little bit of an extra push. So yeah, Bronya is a Wind Harmony character. Characters who walk the path of Harmony are specialized at buffing other party members, and Bronya is no exception. If you already have other Harmony characters built, Bronya does have her advantages and disadvantages compared to them, in my opinion. Like, if you've already built Tin Yun, or if you've already built Yukong, you could maybe put off building Bronya for later, unless, like, you haven't committed too many resources into them. I do think that Bronya is better than both of them. However, they're pretty interchangeable as well because they provide different buffs. So like Tin Yun can not only provide the attack buff like Bronya can, she does not have the crit damage buff that Bronya can provide, but she instead gets energy regeneration, and Yukong gives crit rate and crit damage as well as attack, but it's not as strong as Tin Yun or Bronya's attack buffs. So she's a bit more flexible compared to Bronya or Tin Yun. And then Asta is kind of a unique case, as she's pretty much like the only Harmony character I would say that's arguably worse than Bronya in every situation. The only situation where Asta is better is if you're building a fire team, since Asta can give specifically fire damage bonus, as well as if you're fighting an enemy with a fire weakness. Asta is pretty good at breaking enemy weaknesses, so she can fill that role. But you can also build Bronya in that way. Like, you can have break effect on Bronya, and not like have to invest too much because Bronya already deals a pretty sizable amount of damage, so you'll be able to get some solid break effects with her if you wanted to build her that way as well. So yeah, Bronya's ultimate is the Belobog March. It's a team-wide buff, which is better for teams running multiple DPS units, just because if you're giving the team-wide buff, if you're running like one DPS unit and two support units, you're buffing support units, which is fine, but you're just not getting as much value as if you're buffing multiple TPS units. So it does have that advantage to it, but it's still really good if you're just buffing one DPS unit, because you are giving them additional crit damage and additional attack whenever it's upgraded. And the percentage of crit damage you're giving to allies is based off of Bronya's crit damage, and you pretty much only have to build crit damage for Bronya, but I'll kind of get into that more whenever I'm talking about how to build Bronya. And then I'm also running the Dance 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 Light Cone, which whenever the wearer uses their ultimate, all allies' actions will advance forward by 18%, so it kind of gives them a speed buff on top of giving them other team-wide buffs whenever you use your ultimate, and it also synergizes with Bronya's Relic, which does the same thing, but only for her. So Bronya's skill, combat redeployment, is in my opinion her greatest ability. So for starters, this move cleanses a debuff. One debuff, which is usually only reserved for abundance characters. This can free up allies from crowd control or damage over time debuffs, which is important for late game enemies, such as the ones found in Memory of Chaos. The next feature of this skill is the attack buff. It gives them just a direct damage buff by like 57% at level 8 for one turn. And then lastly, this skill instantly advances the target's action, so they're able to act immediately, which is where her like turn order manipulation comes in, outside of if you're running the Dance 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 light cone, which also has some turn order manipulation built into it. So yeah, in this game, turn order is a really important thing. It's pretty much how the game operates. Like, that's in a turn-based game, getting your turn before your enemies is always going to be a good thing. So having turn order manipulation is really massive for a support character, and she's pretty much the only one that has turn order manipulation outside of hunt characters, which can give themselves an instant turn depending on if certain conditions are met, like Sela or Dan Hung can also do that. And then the Harmony Light Cone Dance 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 also has a bit of turn order manipulation built into it. And then additionally, one Eidolon, which I'll kind of get into Eidolons a bit later, as you don't really have to have Eidolons for Bronya to be good, they just kind of enhance her even further. At one Eidolon, her skill has a 50% chance of recovering the skill point that you use on it every turn, so yeah, she also becomes a character that can help manage skill points, especially if you have speed boots on Bronya, which is my recommended build for Bronya. I'll also get into that more when I'm talking about relics. And then lastly, the other thing to look at when analyzing Bronya is her single target skill Wind Rider Bullet, which is her basic attack. It's a simple basic attack, it just deals a percentage of her attack to a single enemy. Like, you can upgrade it more to get like 100% at level 6. But yeah, it still does pretty good damage, and the other things about it that you might not know is with Bronya's traces, I believe it's this one, yes, or, well, that one as well, but no, it's her talent, actually. Leading the Way, it will advance her next action by a certain percentage depending on how much it's upgraded, so there's some more turn order manipulation, and this trace here means that your crit rate will instantly become 100% on your basic attack, and that's the only move that deals damage for Bronya. Like, her ultimate and her skill both are just buffing attacks, they don't really deal any damage at all, so that basically means that Bronya has a 100% chance to crit any enemy, because crit rate's not like effect hit rate, where enemies have effect resistance. So if you have 100% effect hit rate, it still doesn't mean that you will apply your effects 100% of the time. You still need a bit more effect hit rate and stuff, depending on what the base chance of the move is. But with crit rate, 100% crit rate means 100% crit rate. Like, you'll always be critting. So you only need crit damage on Bronya. You don't really need any additional crit chance, since she can't do anything with it. She doesn't pass crit chance into other allies like Yukong does. She just has the 100% crit rate on her basic attack. So yeah, the turn order manipulation thing is also really important, because if you have if you have speed boots on Bronya and she's going first on your team, you can use her basic attack to hit an enemy, give your team a skill point, so it will start the game at 4 skill points, and then by the time your other characters have attacked, Bronya will be able to attack again one time before the enemy attacks most of the time. If you have speed boots and you have like this talent upgraded a decent amount, she should be able to attack again before they attack, so then you can use her skill to either buff another unit, or you can just get another skill point. So yeah, she has a lot of versatility with that, and yeah, it does pretty solid damage, especially if you've got attack and crit damage on Bronya, so you can also put like break effect on Bronya if you wanted to, and have it be pretty solid for breaking enemy win weaknesses. But yeah, so for other traces for Bronya, I just kind of wanted to mention them since you could kind of see them. You have Military Might and Battlefield. These both just provide team-wide buffs. So Battlefield is only a 2-turn team-wide buff of 20% defense increase, which is still pretty solid. It will allow you to get Japard's shield up most of the time. If you use 2 skills, and then if you're still not charged on Japard's ultimate, you can pass into Japard using Bronya's skill and get the ultimate charge before the defense goes away. Or with the military might, as long as Bronya is alive and on field, your teams will just get a 10% damage buff. So yeah, that's the universal damage as well. It's not just specifically attack. So really powerful traits, although this does require her to be at max ascension. So yeah, to get into actually what stats you want to build on Bronya, I will just go ahead and mention that Bronya needs Harmony Calyx resources, Silvermane badges, and Guardian's Lament for upgrades. As well as for the specifically Ascending Bronya, you need the Wind, the Storm Eye resources that you get from the Stagnant Shadow, which is the same just for any Wind type character. So for what stats to increase and like what stats you want to build on Bronya, there are 3 main ones. I would say you need crit rate. You do not need, I mean not crit rate, you need crit damage. You do not need any crit rates. Attack percentage or just flat attack could also be pretty good, since you will be dealing damage with your base attack or basic attack. And then Bronya's 4th Eidolon gives her a follow-up attack. Once per turn, that also scales off of her attack. So if you get her to Eidolon 4, you also still want to have some value in attack. And then the 3rd stat to build is speed. I would probably say speed is the most important one between speed and crit damage, as you always want Bronya to be first on her team. If she's not first, it's fine. Like on my main team, my physical Trailblazer does slightly outspeed my Bronya, but in general, you want your Harmony characters to go first, so they can either get your team a skill point or just go into buffing whatever unit you want to buff. And having the physical Trailblazer specifically go first for my team isn't too bad, since the physical Trailblazer has a talent that buffs their attack whenever they land a hit or get hit. So yeah, it's not too bad, but I'll get more into that when I do my physical Trailblazer guide. And then for recommended gear, that'll be the next section here. So my recommended relic set is the 4-piece Eagle of Twilight line. This gives a 10% wind damage increase, and it also gives Boar Turret Order Manipulation specifically after your Bronya uses her ultimate. So it's kind of like Dance Dance Dance. Synergizes with that. You can also run the 2-piece version of Eagle of Twilight with the 2-piece version of the Musketeer of the Wild Wheat set to give a 12% attack increase alongside a 10% wind damage increase. And then for the ornaments, you can run the Energy Regeneration set here. You can run the, I have it listed here, the Fleet of the Ageless set, which is this set here. It's mostly used on healing characters since it gives them some additional HP, but if your Bronya has over 120 speed, you will give all allies, including herself, an additional 8% attack. So it's not too bad to put on her if you wanted to do that. And the Celestial Differentiator set, which I don't have at the moment since I don't have it on any of my characters, I believe. Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. So yeah, it gives crit damage percent. This is the crit rate percent, and I have that on Bronya because I'm going to give it to Dawn Hung eventually. I just currently have it on Bronya since I use her more. But whenever I get the I'm probably myself either going for the Energy Regeneration or the Celestial Differentiator set for the additional crit damage. I think the Energy Regeneration set is the best, as it's just good on any character, so it's just an easy way to farm for characters. If you don't get the right wind damage boost on Bronya, you could, like if you get fire damage boost instead, you can just give it to Asta, or if you get ice damage instead, you could give it to Japard. It just kind of depends on how you want to play the characters. But yeah, all 3 sets are pretty much equally as effective. It just depends on your preference, although you do need that 120 base speed to be able to get the Fleet of the Ageless bonus effect, as I don't think the max HP percentage is that good on Bronya, whereas the rest of the sets you don't really need to meet the condition for the extra benefits as I mean, the speed and action advancement on the energy regeneration set are still pretty good to go for if you wanted to do that. The Celestial Differentiator one is like 60% crit damage increase, or crit rate increase if your crit damage reaches a certain percent, so it's not useful on Bronya since she doesn't really need crit rate. But the crit damage itself is the useful aspect of it. And then you could also technically build the space or ceiling station since it does give attack percentage. So it's not too bad, as you'll be dealing with damage with your base attack anyway most of the time, since she is a Harmony character. And then for the specific stats that you want to see on gear, for the chest piece, you want to see crit damage percent, as, yeah, that's all you need. You don't need any crit rate. You could do attack percentage if you wanted to, but I think that crit damage is by far the best choice for this, and then you can get attack percentage on the substats. For boots, you want either speed or attack percentage. I think speed is much preferred, since having speed boots will allow your Bronya to go first, and getting some more speed stats on other pieces of gear will allow your Bronya to go first, and that gives you a free skill point at the beginning of any enemy encounter, so it's just always a useful thing to have. And it can also proc the Fleet of the Ageless or the Energy Regeneration 2-piece ornament sets, bonus effects, if you wanted to do that. And then for Planosphere, you want either wind damage percent or attack percent. Wind damage, like the specific character damage type on the Planosphere, will always be better than just straight up attack percent, since you can always get attack percent on the substat. Like, this is a really good piece of gear if it was the crit damage instead of the crit rate set for Bronya. And then you would also maybe want some speed substats on here. And then for energy, or for the rope, you want energy regeneration rate or attack percent. Energy regeneration rate is just always going to be best in slot on any character, but attack percentage is fine as well if you do not have energy regeneration rate. For substats, you want crit damage, speed, attack percentage, or flat attack. You could also go for break effects on the substats if you wanted your Bronya's basic attack to have more break power, or breaking enemies' shields and stuff, if your characters kind of benefit from fighting enemies with broken shields or whatever. So some characters do get stat bonuses against enemies with broken shields. For light cones, I'm actually going to go to the databank here, since it has all of the light cones. So you can only use Harmony light cones on Harmony characters. Well, you can use any light cone, you won't get the effect if you're not using Harmony ones on a Harmony character. The best in slot light cone for Bronya is, of course, a signature light cone, but the battle isn't over. Gives some energy regeneration rates, it has some skill point regeneration, it has damage buffs on the next ally that's taking action. So if you use Bronya's skill to buff the next ally's attack and make them attack next, they'll get a further damage buff by either 30% or up to 50% at the max refinement or whatever. And then some other light cones are Past and Future, Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds, Dance, 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 and Meshing Cogs is a 3-star light cone, but it's probably the best 3-star light cone in the game. It's pretty usable on any Harmony characters. It just gives them some flat energy at higher superimposition levels. I meant superimposition, not refinement. That is from Genshin, my bad. But yeah, at superimposition 5, you'll get 8 additional energy anytime you attack or get hit once per turn. So yeah, it's just some nice energy regeneration. It is amplified by a certain percentage. So if you have like 125% energy regeneration on your character, then you'll get 25% of the 8 energy regeneration on this as additional energy regeneration. So you'll have a total of 10 energy regeneration at superimposition 5 just from landing a hit with Meshing Cogs or getting hit once per turn. Although the Memories of the Past light cone, I don't actually recommend building this on Bronya, but it is a direct upgrade of meshing cogs if you wanted to build it. I think that it has better uses on Asta, and if you are building a Bronya that's designed to get enemy enemy weakness breaks, it's still pretty good for that, as it does give you some break effect percentage, 28% base, 56% super imposition 5. So it's still fine, but in my opinion, I do actually like Dance 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 a bit more, as the turn order manipulation is really nice. But yeah, Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds is just some random buffs that are always a good thing to have once per turn, and then Past and Future is pretty much just, it's a synergistic light cone with Bronya's skill as the next character to attack after you use your skill will have a damage increase. So it's kind of just like a weaker version of Bronya's signature light cone. So yeah, for Bronya teams, I don't actually have any specific teams pre-made for Bronya, since Bronya is pretty much just a best-in-slot Harmony character. So if you're building a team and you have a Harmony character, you can always just replace them with Bronya if you wanted to, if your Bronya is built well enough. So like, if I have this team here, I have Tianyun. Since my Tianyun is only level 50 and my Bronya is level 80, obviously she's going to be better, as I haven't really built Tianyun myself, as I got Bronya before I got Tianyun. But if you already have Tianyun built and you're having like a level 50 Bronya, you might want to use Tianyun instead in that situation. But pretty much every time you can always just swap in Bronya. Unless you're running Silverwolf specifically, I would say, and you want to have Silverwolf, since Silverwolf's skill can implant a weakness on a random enemy, and let's say that I wanted to make it where the weakness that she implants is really likely to be physical, I would want more physical characters on my team. So that way, the skill would have, if you have 3 physicals, there's a 75% chance of applying the physical for all 3 characters that are physical, and a 25% chance of applying the quantum weakness break. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you want to do with Silverwolf, as if you're running Silverwolf as a sub DPS and you don't really care about the weakness implant, then Bronya can still be fine with Silverwolf, as she's still a really strong character. And then, since I'm not really going into team building, I thought I would talk about Bronya's Eidolons. So, for the first Eidolon, specifically the first and the 4th Eidolon, the 6th Eidolon, it's fine if you have it, but it takes so many copies of Bronya to get there that it's not really as important. It just gives that additional extra turn of damage boost, so you don't have to use Bronya's skill every single turn. You can use it once every 2 turns and still get the effects. But Eidolon 1 is the 50% chance at recovering a skill point. This is really good for managing skill points. If you have a team that's really skill point intensive and your Bronya is on that team and you want to have some skill point regeneration, you can use this, as well as Bronya's signature light cone also provides some skill point regeneration whenever she uses her ultimate. So yeah, really good for getting additional skill points. And then Eidolon 4 is a follow-up attack, which is really interesting to me. This is kind of, whenever I'm pulling for characters on the signature banner, I'm trying to work towards my 300 character pool, so that way I get a free 5-star character of my choice. I will either choose a character that I don't have yet, which is like Yangqing or Clara or Bailu, or I will choose another copy of Bronya to try to reach this E4, because it seems really interesting. It's a follow-up attack that deals 80% of Bronya's basic attack damage as wind damage to an enemy with a wind weakness, so long as an ally hit them with a basic attack once per turn. So basically what that means is, if you have like physical Trailblazer, and there's an enemy with a wind weakness, and you hit them with physical Trailblazer's basic attack, Bronya will follow-up attack, so long as she has not follow-up attacked one time that turn, and it will deal wind damage. So even if your ally that hit them is not a wind damage dealer, you'll still be able to get wind damage on them just from having Bronya's follow-up attack deal that extra wind damage. So, yeah, overall, Bronya is easily like the best support character in the game, in my opinion, just for the massive versatility she has, with her skill being team-wide buffing. She has skill point regeneration. She deals a fair amount of damage to a single target. So you can even like you could technically run her as a sub DPS, which is usually a role that only Nihility characters can do because of their multipliers. But because Bronya gets so much out of crit damage and attack damage, you could honestly run her as a single target sub DPS if you wanted to. As she also gets that action advancement, and she gets a 10% damage buff just for existing. So I mean, you could run her as a sub DPS and still get value out of her. But yeah, arguably she is a top 3 character in the game for sure, like pretty inarguably in my opinion top 3, as I think that she's top 2, and I think that she's easily the best free, like not necessarily free to play. You can get her off of the Departure Warp banner, and if you want to reroll for characters on the Departure Warp banner, I would say Bronya is the best character to reroll for, either Bronya or Welt for imaginary damage breaks, since he's pretty much the only way to get imaginary damage once the Lucha banner is gone, until you get to Memory of Chaos. So you can either reroll for Bronya or Welt, in my opinion. I do think Bronya is probably the best, or even Jabard if you wanted a shielding character. But yeah, Bronya is like easily not necessarily the best free-to-play character since she is a 5-star character, but she's the best like base game 5-star character, as Seela is locked behind a character event banner, so if Seela's banner is not being rerun, then you simply don't have access to her, unless your friends have her as their support character. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be everything I have to say for Bronya for now. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to answer it when I can. So yeah, that'll be it for now. Guys, hope to see everyone in the next one.